Hey guys, this is Tim with Tabletop Terrors. I am very excited to bring you this week's podcast. We were able to do an interview with the creators of DungeonScape. DungeonScape, as you know, is the official companion to the Dungeons & Dragons tabletop RPG. So we're going to be talking with Chris Matney, founder of Trapdoor Technologies, the software company that produces DungeonScape, as well as Evan Newton, the producer of DungeonScape. So they were kind enough to do an interview with us, and that is what you're going to be hearing. So I hope you enjoy it. Absolutely comment, find us on YouTube, subscribe, and also just go to tabletopterrors.com for more content just like this. Without further ado, here we go. So I just kind of wanted to do an interview with you two guys and just shoot the breeze and kind of talk about your love for D&D and kind of go that angle, if that's cool with you guys.
Works for me.
Great, yeah. Sounds good.
Awesome. I kind of wanted to start off, with an easy one. As far as it goes, what's your experience with D&D? And Evan, I'll start with you. I mean, are you a D&D guy from your youth, or is something that you got into later?
Sure. So for me, my story is a little bit more recent. I came from a video game background. I grew up with Nintendo and all of those things. And growing up through school, there was the D&D crowd, and then there was the computer game crowd and the chess club. And I tried to get into tabletop for a little bit, but none of the guys who were doing it at the time I had a very good friendship with. So it didn't work out so well while I was in school. But after I went into college, I started playing with other board games, like Settlers of Catan, and getting into the more complex rule sets. And it was just sort of a rabbit hole from there.
Sure.
And I played a game of Call of Cthulhu for the first time a few years ago and loved it, and have gone from there. And then Chris started doing 5th edition play tests with us, and it has been an absolute blast. So that, combined with reading books like Ready Player One,
Sure.
I absolutely adored that book, and it had a lot of the D&D culture in there that I feel like I missed out on as a kid. And so this has been a way for me to reconnect with a lot of those things that I saw as a kid but never really got involved with. It's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah. And Chris, what about you? I mean, are you a D&D guy from when you were a youngin', playing those TSR-S1 modules, or, where does your story start?
My story starts in 77 with the white box set.
Okay.
Rules were just, a fantasy on the horizon at that point. So, I started playing box set, played a lot of AD&D starting in 78, 79 when the books started coming out.
Sure.
I have been running campaigns. I've got one campaign that is now entering its 34th year.
Oh,
we just had our 33rd yearly gathering and play. And that's a fairly substantial amount of time, but we've seen a lot of changes in D&D since then. So AD&D was my first real love, because it was, the box set was great, but it gave very little guidance. So AD&D was really where it started. I looked at 2nd edition. It sucked, so I stayed with AD&D. It's kind of the opposite of Microsoft. I liked 1, 3, and 5, 2, and 4. So played a lot of AD&D through the beginning of 3rd edition, and then 3rd edition was awesome. Got totally hooked into it. 3, 5. 4th came out, tried it, didn't like it, went back, played Pathfinder until 5th came out. So that's sort of my straight D&D legacy. I've played lots of role-playing games, everything from Traveller through, we play a lot of Realms of Cthulhu now, which is a Savage Worlds variant. So, I've probably played at least 20 or 30 different role-playing sessions or campaigns, rule sets. And I've got, two ongoing campaigns. One is that 30-year-old one, and also doing a more modern Victorian steampunk Cthulhu style role-playing game. So love the game, been playing for years. I've run well over 100 campaigns, and still playing.
That's awesome. Now, something that struck me is very interesting is when you said you got together for the annual playing of your 34-year group. So do you have this group that has kind of stuck with you through the years where you guys all fly to a secret location and just run like one awesome game of D&D or something? Or how does that work?
Yeah, we get together once a year. We go up in the mountains of Colorado, and no women are invited, kids, houses, nope, just the guys. And it is a game fest. Starts on a Wednesday night, runs through Sunday. We come back exhausted, and we play as many games as you can possibly play. Beer, steak, poker. You got the idea. So it's something that no one asks whether we're going to do it. It's just what weekend are we playing.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. And then Evan, something that you were mentioning. You have a video game background. What kinds of video games were you into when the system started to go from, that Nintendo style more into the Super Nintendo and then on where games got a little more complex? Was there anything that's like a favorite of yours, something that just still sticks with you that you still pop in?
Oh, well, so there were, I think going from Nintendo, my first RPG was Zelda, the gold disc, or the gold cartridge.
Right. And
I went from there into Mac gaming, which was sort of a non-event in the 90s, to be honest. But there were a couple of games in there that had some really cool mechanics. One was called Warlords, which is actually available on iPad currently. Another one was called Taskmaker, which used a lot of the same RPG-based stat approaches that were inspired, obviously, from things like D&D.
Sure.
And I was absolutely hooked on the RPG, the story, the building characters. I loved a lot of those games, and so for me, the things that really stick out for me are the games that I was able to build something with, and so I guess from that angle, I have been a fan of much of the same place that D&D comes from.
Yeah, excellent. How did you guys meet? How did you guys get connected? What was it something before the business, or was it like friendship then business? How did that kind of happen?
Well, the company started as a traditional publisher, so we did books that we would like. So it was fantasy, sci-fi fiction. I called it geek fiction. Lots of horror, and one of the things that we didn't like, or that I didn't like about the ebook books back then, was that the ebooks were just recreating paper on a computer where you have an infinite amount of power and you're not utilizing any of it. So we started doing enhanced ebooks, and one of the features of the enhanced ebook was an audio overlay, which will let you go between reading the book, listening to the book, reading the book, listening to the book, keeps track of where you are and stuff like that.
That's really
well. We needed someone. We tried the computer generated voices, and back then they were terrible, and now they're still terrible. And so we needed the voice, someone who could read a book, and Evan was the voice. So I interviewed about a dozen different voice artists, and Evan came in as the person we wanted to listen to. So that's how we got started back long before the contract with Wizards of the Coast, long before the current incarnation of Trapdoor Technologies, back in the days of publishing books.
Yeah, and from my angle, I was working in the game industry directly. I had come from Los Angeles working with Activision on Call of Duty and Riot Games on League of Legends, and I was in Denver and looking for whatever my next gig was going to be, and I do voiceovers on the side. And I saw a little email from this guy named Chris Matney in the Independent Game Developers Association listserv, and I responded to it, and we did a few books together. It was great. And in the time since that, I was working in mobile development, mobile games with Backflip Studios, which does Dragonvale, Paper Toss, a bunch of popular mobile titles. And it wasn't until after Chris landed the gig with Wizards of the Coast that he asked me to come on and help out with DungeonScape.
That's great. You know what I want to ask, and I know it's, everyone probably wants to know this, which is, how do you get a gig like that? I mean, there are software developers that would grab a beholder by the eye stalks to try to get this thing. How did you guys land this sweet, awesome opportunity? Is there a cool story there too?
Yeah, there's quite a background. So the technology that we had developed to do our enhanced ebooks was a software as a services platform that lets you suck in content. It automatically parses through it, loads links, does all the audio stuff. And I found myself on weekends using the platform to put my own D&D content into the app.
Oh, wow.
And so I thought, if I'm doing this and other people might want to do this. And so I contacted Peter Atkinson, who was the founder at Wizards, and said, hey, I got this cool new technology. He said, come on down to Gamma and I'll introduce you to everyone. So off we went to Gamma, and this would have been 2012. And Peter introduced me around, and I started talking with pretty much all the major players out there, and Wizards was interested. And my first interview with the current group that we're working with on Wizards was on April 1st. I did a prototype. That was successful. Got to the point where they were saying, we love your idea around digital publishing, but we really need to build a set of tools for character building and stuff. And so we're replacing the D&D Insider stuff. And I said, well, why are you going to have two sets of tools when you get one set of tool that'll do both? Yeah. And the fact that we can do publishing in very large quantities very quickly and very efficiently was obviously something that other tool builders who are building, just character builders weren't able to do. So put together a pitch. The formal RFP went out in October. I went up to Seattle and pitched the product. And I think that they liked the idea, the vision, that I'm creating the tool that I would have been using for the last 30 years to run D&D adventures, that had the features that I wanted. But we were very committed to D&D as a tabletop game. We're not making a video game. We are making a supplement that's going to allow people to have more time at the table to play D&D, less time looking up the rules. Grapple. Okay, I'll leave the table while someone looks up grapple.
That's that 3.5 grapple.
Exactly. Or even turning. But in any case, so I think that a lot of things resonated. Obviously I'm an old-time D&D player. I have, very strong opinions, but I do have a great respect for the game. It's been, something more than a passion for me. And I think that passion, along with the fact that we're a mobile company, we do mobile applications. We're not trying to retrofit, an old PC application. And the fact that what we were doing is really a combination of both what people are traditionally expecting, which is, hey, I can roll up a character, I've got a character sheet, I can print my character sheet. But also, hey, I can actually read adventures and send notes and send maps to other people, and I can manage my party, and I can manage all of my online content with someone who, with a company that already did content publishing, was a unique story. And I think the real reason we got the deal over companies who are bigger than us and who have probably done more titles was simply because we had a different approach to solve a problem in a new way that people will respond positively to, with technology that is cutting edge rather than sort of retrofitted.
Yeah. And we're both in the beta right now. We got our invites. And so it's awesome to see, because it's, like you said, it saves so much time. We sat at how long did it take for our family to make characters?
We spent a whole night on it. We planned to play that night, but we spent a whole night sitting everybody down and trying to figure it out and rolling everything out and explaining it. And I made a character in DungeonScape in the beta in about 5 minutes. It was amazing. Complete with a picture.
Yeah, because we game as a family. This is my brother, and then we literally game with my dad, my sister-in-law. I mean, basically, it's all the entire family once a week sits at the table. And so getting them to all sit down and we're sharing 2 players' handbooks and passing it around, it was just, I was like, man, I wish that beta was out just like a month sooner. It would have saved us like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's interesting. When we were playing it, we did the first pre-alpha at Origins. In fact, we didn't have a final copy of the player's handbook at that point. We were still working on an early version of the rules. But the thing that was interesting watching people play around the table was they could roll up characters very quickly. And we ran a modified version of the Minds of Madness where, the first encounter is Purple Worm comes out and eats half the party. The reason we did that, besides the fact I like killing characters, is that we wanted to see how fast people could roll up a new character and join. And so the idea was there's this town down below the Purple Worm, and if you get eaten, roll up a character, come on up the hill. And we had people that would actually be able to come back into the battle before the end of the combat. Oh. And it wasn't with just, I made another copy of the exact same character. It's like, we're fighting a Purple Worm. I'm going to go make a Purple Worm Slayer. And they spent the time to do it. But since all the options were there at their fingertips, they're back in the game. One of the things that I'm always worried about is I don't want to turn this into a video game. I don't want people to sit there staring at their iPads. But that's not what was happening. They looked at their iPads no more than they looked at their player's handbook or looked at their character sheet. And that's really the goal. The goal is to make the face-to-face experience more valuable and the time better spent. And that we started seeing that almost immediately from the groups. And there's always a little bit of the first session. People are like, ooh. Sure. But by the second and third session, you start to see people, the technology becomes transparent and it just becomes part of the game, and people are back to playing the game, which is what I want it to be like. That's my big goal for the game.
Yeah, and by extension to that, we did a lot of play testing at Gen Con as well, and ran into many players and DMs who were very skeptical. They sat down at a table full of iPads and went, "Oh God, this is going to be distraction central." And we had a number of people who came up and said that was incredibly surprising that people were able to stay in the game, and the iPads were they take up less space on the table than the stacks of papers and books that people normally carry. So that was actually a pleasant affirmation for us in what we're doing, is to create something that puts people more into the game and playing their character as opposed to wondering how to do something.
Right. No, I love it. One of the things I was going to ask is, as you see this developing, and I know you can't really release details until they're firmed up, but do you see DungeonScape as being the new backpack full of books? Do you see it to where you can have players who just have their iPad and everything runs straight from that? DM's got an iPad, everyone's got an iPad, and you could play anywhere?
Yeah, last Thursday, I went to a play test. There's a group down in Denver that was early in the alpha process. And I had run a number of sessions with them, and, things had gotten busy. I hadn't been down there for a couple of months. So I popped down to see them and walked in with my iPad. That was it. Huh. And we played D&D all night. I didn't need a dice, didn't need my books, didn't need anything. Everything I needed was on the iPad. And it really doesn't strike you until you're ready to pack up for the night. You pick up your iPad and you're done. You're ready to go. Yeah. And I think that once people get comfortable with the technology and the just the change, that will happen. I personally like to use dice. I like physical dice.
Sure.
But this, for me, was an experiment. Can I just walk out of the house with my iPad and play D&D? Yeah, easy to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we also have been designing the app to work really well with physical props, or, if you like to use minis or maps on the table or projector or stuff like that. There's nothing preventing you from doing that. And what having an iPad means is you can spend a little bit more time on those materials that you would use to enhance the storytelling, as opposed to the looking up of rules and books and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I've painted a lot of minis over the last 37 years. I'm going to use it.
One of the things I love about DungeonScape is the fact that it checks your facts. You can't fudge a character because the software won't let you. You know what I mean? You can't accidentally add a plus here or a this and that there. And so it really helped one of my brothers who is very, very new to D&D. 5th edition is his first time he's ever playing. I basically sat him down to test out your software, and I was like, make a character. He's like, well, how? How do I make a character? And I was like, well, just follow the prompts. And he did. And it basically kept him within the guidelines. You know, he would have given up. If I would have handed him a player's handbook and said the same thing, he would have been like, no. My point is that I think it's also going to create just a straight funnel to making a character, just wrecking all the barriers of entry that used to be there of, here's a book, read the whole thing, and then retrofit that knowledge to make a character.
Yeah, you bring up 2 good points that we should probably chat about. One is, in addition to sort of the standard creation model, so where you're going through literally the steps that WotC outlines in the player's handbook. We also have the simple character creation, which is we're asking you what Game of Thrones character you are. You know,
oh, wow.
Answer 5 or 6 questions. You don't need to have ever played any role-playing game. Just answer the questions, and we'll drop you into an iconic character that is appropriate for a new player, and you're there in 20 seconds, and you're off and running. The other is for those people that show up 10 minutes after the game has started, forgot their character, whatever, which is the fast character creation, which is basically a bunch of tags. You go in and you say, I want to play sneaky, halfling, 3rd level, you know, whatever, and click find me a character, and it dumps you into a character, and you can off and running. And so, you know, maybe someone comes over and just wants to casually play once, and they're not going to join the campaign or something like that. Perfect thing. Hey, we're going to need someone tonight that's a thief that can, you know, participate because our normal thief is gone. You're there, and without having to go through even the standard character creation process. So I think that's you know, a fairly important piece of the puzzle. The other thing about enforcing the rules is actually an interesting thing. We're not the rules lawyers. If you roll up your character, you can go to your character and click on your strength value, and you can add to it. You can give yourself a nice big 20 strength if you want to. And it will make all the calculations for you throughout the sheet. And that's great, because sometimes the Dungeon Masters is going to say, hey, you just, you know, went into this temple and you feel strong. Give yourself 3 points of strength. But at the same time, the DM can see all the other characters' sheets. And so I can look and see, hey, Evan still has his +3 strength. That was 3 adventures ago. No wonder he's doing so much damage. I can't change Evan's sheet, but I can say, hey, Evan, you forgot to take the thing off, and off we go. So, you know, can we keep people from cheating? No, and we don't care. I mean, that's part of the game. What we want to do is facilitate making playing by the rules as easy as possible, and take out the bookkeeping. Who really wants to look through the book to find out all the rippling effects of, you know, making your strength one point higher?
Sure.
That to me isn't terribly interesting. That sort of accounting. So all of that is taken care of by the app, and the app does enforce rules when it does that.
Yeah, we've written a blog post about this, that there is a fine balance between what the app is going to force you to do and what the app is simply providing for you as a reference point. So, you know, the app is not going to tell or restrict you from using certain abilities when you can't or anything like that. It's still a tabletop game. It's still being run, like the game is still out here. It's not down in the app, which is what we want. We want people to be looking at each other instead of down at their character sheets.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not proficient with something, you will know you're not proficient with it, but you still have to, you know, sort of deal with that, you know, in-game mode, rather than having the software say, nope, you can't put that on, you're not proficient with it. And I think that's the right balance. So far, it's been very well received by the playtesters.
Yeah, like you guys said, I feel like it's very important. The coolest part about it is the fact that you're not, like you said, you're not trying to make it a video game. You're not trying to replace anything. You're giving people a set of tools that they can use however much, however little they want. But it will help, especially in our situation where we want everybody to play. You know, we want to get our brothers and our friends, and it's very daunting. We just hand them an iPad, and there we go. You know, suddenly they're sucked in. They don't need to buy a book or do this or do that. You know, we can suck them in the easy way, and then use all the tools however much we want or however much we don't want, you know?
Yeah, there's a couple of good points from that. One is, we always have the people who say, I'm not going to use it. I'm going to use my books. The grognards of the group. Fine. The app is designed so that not everybody has to play. In fact, the DM doesn't even have to have the app. The players can play without the DM in the sense of, they can still use it for managing their characters and stuff like that. And so I think that, we recognize that's the case. Now, what's happening is, I've got some old friends. I guess all my friends are old. And they sit around the table. I'm never going to buy an iPad. So you don't even have to try to pitch me on this. It's like, fine. And then I find them saying, so what does this spell do again? Click. Oh, can you look this up for me? Click. And then, a couple of weeks later, they're like, okay, fine. I'm going to go buy an iPad because, it's too helpful not to have one. So I've got everyone on board so far. I got one guy that's still holding out. But I think I've got him on the ropes, and he's going to fall into the iPad trap pretty fast. Just because it really does make the game a lot more fun to play. The other thing that I wanted to mention is, back before this project, I would turn off the Wi-Fi at my house. I live up in the mountains, and I got annoyed with people using gadgets around the table. And
Sure.
If I turn off the Wi-Fi, and no one ever asked, why does his Wi-Fi always go down? But, the long and the short of it is, with DungeonScape, what we're finding is people who are those problem children who are always checking their email or doing something else aren't really doing it to check their email or something else. They have this Pavlovian requirement to touch their iPad. Every 5-10 minutes they have to touch their iPad. So what's happening is, and I've been watching very, very carefully, what's happening, those people are touching their iPad to play DungeonScape. They're never leaving DungeonScape. And so we have this law of this unintended consequences, which is we're allowing the people who need to do it the ability to do it, but we're keeping them in the game. So they're actually paying more attention to the game than they did before. So you're seeing the exact opposite effect that I think most people are worried about, which is everybody's staring at their iPads, no one's looking each other in the face, and the game is becoming a video game. So
pretty awesome. One of the things I was going to throw out there too is, as far as players, right now with 5th edition, and I'll throw this Evan to you first. What are you really digging into? Are you playing a character right now? Do you have a specific class you're gravitating toward or anything like that? What's your poison right now?
Oh boy, Chris loves me. I'm the guy that, I play a chaotic neutral character.
That guy.
I play a human rogue who just loves to, I don't know what's behind the door. I'm just going to open the door and walk in. So, I maybe I rely on my ability scores a little bit more than I should in certain circumstances. But having weighted dice helps.
It's that chaotic neutral coming out.
Right, exactly. So, and this actually is reflected in the way that I play video games as well. I'm always playing the characters with the bow and arrow. I'm always sneaking around if I have the option. I love games that let me sneak and backstab and all of that stuff. So, it just transfers directly into how I play D&D.
That's awesome.
Evan's the great pace setter for a campaign, because if it ever slows down even slightly, he's going to be off doing something that'll stir things up. So you never have to worry about the adventure getting dull.
I'll be running back into the room with 20 orcs behind me going, hey guys, wait, look out.
Yeah. Chris, how many Guile Zen guys are at your group right now that you guys are playing?
You mean playtesters or developers?
Well, actually, that kind of brings up another question. Mike Merles actually sent out a tweet today, and he said, we just coined a new term at the office. It's called play. And what that means is not play testing. So he's basically saying there's play testing and then there's playing for fun. And he's like, no, we're going to play. And so do you guys play, or is it all play testing at this point?
I would say play is the way you keep people play testing is to make it fun. Yeah. So typically we do pretty focused play testing. So tonight we're focusing on this particular feature. We want to get your feedback at the end of the night, but we're going to play D&D. And the whole idea is if the application works so that everybody can play D&D and have fun, awesome, we've had a good night. And then people are going to say, hey, I have this very specific feedback on this feature that you've added or this change that you've made. And it allows us to really, keep the big picture in mind and not get lost in the details. I mean, there's hundreds of features and the complexity of the app is very, very high. So it's easy to get lost in those details. And what playtesting or play lets us do is step back and say, hey, the whole reason we're building this is to have fun playing D&D. If it's not fun when we're playing D&D, then we're failing. So we probably pull playtesting more into the realm of the QA group who gets to pound through every class, every level, every situation. And we leave the playtesting nights, and we try to bring in a real wide variety of people. Never played a lot, love technology, hate technology, what's an iPad, because we need to find out what all those people are going to do. And the one thing that's in common is we have fun. And if we didn't have fun, people wouldn't come back.
So you guys have what most would consider as a dream job, even though you're also under some of the most scrutiny right now from everyone who's ever played D&D. So there's kind of this two sides of the fence. Everyone's like, oh, they're so lucky that they get to play D&D and make that app. But then everyone's also so ready to point out all of the negatives. A lot of people have their eyes on you guys right now. As people, how do you deal with that weight on your shoulders?
Yeah. I guess there's a good analogy around, I don't know which comedian said it, but he said in performing for a stadium of 5,000 people or a stadium of 50,000 people, there's not really much difference. And I think, a similar concept applies here in that, I come from very popular video games who have millions of fans and hardcore fans. And, when you hit that level of popularity, there's always going to be people who come out of the woodwork and have their particular hopes and dreams and personal motivations for being into the product. And so, all we can do in the way we interact with the public is to say, look, tell us how you play. And let us know if there's a way that we can help you accomplish what you want to do with the product. And, for us, we've been painfully aware of the history of tabletop digital apps in the past, and it's definitely not exactly been the smoothest road. For us, there's a little bit of, we're here, we're listening, and we know that at the end of the day, the proof is going to be when you sit down with the app and have it in your hands. And that's what we're shooting for right now.
I would echo a lot of those sentiments. I think from my perspective, this is the tool I wanted to build for the last 37 years. We've all built character generators over the years, and it's a perfect time to be undertaking this project because the power of the tablet technology really makes this viable now. Even the thought of everybody sitting around with a laptop wasn't really viable in my mind as far as being able to do this. And so I think that we're trying, everything that we're trying is new. And so some things are going to fail and some things are going to succeed. The overall success of the project is our ability to adapt to the things that people are responding well to and to change the things that they're not responding well to. And we've been able to do that. I mean, that's part of the reason we've had a very open process through the alpha and the beta program, getting as much feedback as we can. We don't want to develop this in a box, throw it out there and say, hey, this looks great, doesn't it? And so I think that, that's the approach that we take to this software process. I feel very comfortable in understanding how Dungeons and Dragons should be run. I also feel very comfortable in understanding how characters will respond to being able to gain that extra hour sitting at the table. And so is it going to be the end-all be-all of everything for everybody? No. Never planned on doing that. But I think we'll very quickly appeal to both casual players who want to play the game and not learn all the rules. And we're going to appeal to hardcore users who want to know every min-max possibility and be able to check those out to whatever level they want. And then people are going to have to get their heads around the fact that now I can run the dungeon. I can send maps and text to people on their iPads. We can share campaign logs. We can send secret notes without people actually seeing that I'm sending a secret note. And all of a sudden, you start thinking, oh, there's sound effects. Oh, there's map building. Oh, there's making my own campaign. There's so many things that can be done that I think, we're going to have a situation where it's more of a everybody will want their features in, and we'll just be able to crank them out only as fast as our group of developers can crank them out. So I really expect there will be a few that won't like it, but I will be very surprised if in the end people aren't blown away with the capabilities of the new product.
Yeah, it's and to extend on that, I think, to be clear, it has been a challenge for us that tabletop gaming is an infinitely flexible medium, and there are millions of players out there who have their own particular way that they play. And so creating an app that accommodates for that's our number one focus. And so people have expressed a lot of concern about whether or not the app will be able to play the game like the way they want to play. And I think for the most part, people will be pleasantly surprised in the approach that we've taken.
I also thought about the fact that you're changing the metagame. And it's kind of tying into what you said just a moment ago, Chris, which is, we all as dungeon master, I know I'm a dungeon master and he's a dungeon master. You can't help but inform the players of certain things just because you have to tell another player or make another player aware. Short of me stopping the game and writing them a note and passing it back and forth and so on, it can become very cumbersome. But how awesome would it be if one person goes into a room and I have a picture of what they see and then can show them what they see? I mean, is this something that DungeonScape's going to let me do?
Yeah. So you can share images, or you can share text with one player, two players, all the players in the party. The limitation is you can't share entire adventures. I mean, that's obviously not what the app would do. But one of the things that I find annoying as a dungeon master is I put a lot of time into creating my adventures, and the fact that we play once every couple of weeks, you should be able to remember every name of every character, but people don't. And so being able to share that information into their logbook so they can very quickly reference the names and remember, oh yeah, I remember who that person is. Just being able to get to that level of sort of character player memory of what's going on is going to be huge for playing D&D. So I think that I think there's a lot of things in there that are very appropriate.
I know. Since he's a DM too, we pay particularly careful attention while the other one's DMing. Like, I try to be the best player I can, but I know exactly what you're talking about when you're trying to drop a bomb on them and you're like, but Mr. Johnson wasn't there. And they're all looking at you like, okay, and then what? They're like, no, remember Mr. Johnson from last week? You don't remember? That was the reveal. I've been
setting up Mr. Johnson for a month. What are you guys thinking?
Exactly. Yeah. I just think that that's so cool to be able to pop up a picture and just float it out there and just go, you see this face in the crowd. And it's the picture you sent them last session. They're like, hey, I know this guy. It gets the response you've been looking for.
Right.
So I think that's pretty phenomenal.
It also opens up some new gameplay that perhaps wasn't so easy before. So it's like if your rogue character, like me, runs ahead and opens a chest and finds some treasure and he wants to pocket it secretly, you can the DM will have the power to just send that item over and tell them what's in it and send it over there and have them put it in their inventory without anybody else being the wiser. As opposed to, okay, get up, walk out of the room with me. All right, we're going to chat for a bit, but everybody in the room knows something.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So
and they're going to spend the rest of the next hour trying to figure out what that was.
Exactly.
Right.
So right then, all the ninja looters just rejoiced.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing that's interesting that is maybe another unintended consequence is, so you have the ability to put in sound effects. So you have footsteps, creaking door, whatever. So in my game, what I do is everybody rolls their perception, and the person who gets the highest actually gets to listen to the sound effect on the iPad. And then they get to describe it to everyone else. Now, it may seem like a really stupid thing.
That is not stupid.
It engages, you're no longer describing the action, you're having characters describe what they're hearing. And the level of immersion in a game goes up so much just with those little things. And now I have people spending magic items, spending points to make sure that they get the highest listen roll. Normally something no one would care about.
Right.
And now they want to do it because they want to be the ones that hear what's on the iPad so they can tell their friends. And if they get a good roll, I turn the volume up a little. They get a bad roll, I turn the volume down a little. So you start thinking about all the ways you can mess with your friends. It really becomes, an enabler to a much, much deeper game than what we were able to do just with our traditional pen and paper.
Evan, something I was going to throw to you that I thought of was we're competing. When I say we, I mean anyone who's tabletop gaming and trying to get our group of friends to tabletop game instead of play Call of Duty Ghost.
Right.
Do you think that this kind of thing, basically that Chris just described, is going to help us compete with all the sensory, I guess you'd say, competition that tabletop gaming has to deal with, at least for those surface players? Do you think this gives us more of an edge?
I think you actually hit the nail on the head for me personally in this project, is that, I grew up I played a lot of Doom. I played Quake World Team Fortress back in the day before the original Team Fortress mod for Quake. I played the heck out of that.
Me too, man.
And I've played almost every generation of top of the, most popular multiplayer games out there. And the one common factor through all of that is that you're sitting alone in your office with your computer and you've got your microphone or your chat, and that's your exposure to other people. It's been incredibly awesome for me to have the opportunity to invite all my friends over and do something really fun around the table, see my friends face to face, and then also have this app that facilitates that for me in a way that I'm used to from a video game standpoint. So, it helps guide me through the rules without telling me what to do, and I can still play D&D. So that's that. Yes, to answer your question, I absolutely think it's going to bring a lot of those video gamers out of the woodwork, because face-to-face is fun. Having a reason to sit down with your friends and do something fun is awesome. And I think tabletop gaming, especially D&D, is the ultimate version of that. Because I feel like in some ways board games, while they have all of these specific rules that you have to follow, I often leave the night feeling a little bit like I wasn't able to truly connect with my friends. We were all operating within this gaming rule set with the tokens we're moving around on the board. And in D&D, you can truly inhabit characters and get into all kinds of weird situations that nobody would have ever dreamed of. And that's what I love about it.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And, to kind of add to that, I challenge you to recall and separate those different nights. In other words, it all bleeds together. It's like you're saying, it's almost like in this vacuum where I can tell you so many details of what happened in my D&D games, and my players can tell you, and they just remember it. And these running gags and these inside jokes form from that. And it's so much more powerful, like you said, that face-to-face. Whereas if you ask somebody, oh, hey, remember when we were playing Call of Duty Ghost? And they're like, kind of. It's so much less of a connection, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. It all bleeds together, whereas D&D, you're making actual memories.
Yeah, I can still remember my very first character, Fall of 77, Hobbit. Back then there were Hobbit, thief, and, my friends who had played a couple of times said, well, we need someone to go in there and find out what's going on. You're up, Chris. I'm thinking, well, what are the rules? How do I do it? And it's just like, tell me what you're doing. Yeah. And I can remember that encounter incredibly clearly. And you don't get that same immersion with video games.
It forces you to think. And that's the interesting case that we've seen, especially, is that I obviously have a lot of video gamer friends, and we bring them over, and some of them are playing D&D for the first time, and we ask them to say, okay, introduce yourself, tell me about your character, or why are you here? And they'll say, it's their first night playing, and they'll go, well, my name is Jack, and I was walking by because I wanted to, and I'm here. And it takes a couple of sessions before they're like, oh, wait, no, I really can make this up if I want to. Right. And so I think I think that's a really great thing about D&D.
Well, board games, and I'm a big board gamer, and video games, they don't necessarily tell a story. D&D tells a story, and humans are storytellers. And I think that's, at a very basic level, what the big difference is that we remember stories, and D&D is the best game for telling a story.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. I actually was just talking to him before we did this, and because actually tonight's our game night, and after this call we're gonna game with our family. We decided to take a slight break from D&D just for tonight because a couple people can't be here. We're playing a board game, and I was just telling him, I was like, I don't know why I'm excited, but I'm not as excited as I would be to play D&D, and I can't put my finger on it. And thank you, you just did. It's that when we play that tonight, what was the game called?
Eclipse.
We're going to play a game called Eclipse, which I played before, right?
Yes.
Okay, I played before. See, the point is, I'm not telling a story. I'm just going to manipulate the pieces, kind of like what you're talking about, Evan, But you just put the nail on the head. I'm not going to make a story tonight. I don't get excited. I don't look forward to that. I might win through a series of levers, knobs, and pulleys, but it's a very different thing.
Yep.
Yeah, so thank you, Chris, for answering my internal monologue. That's pretty great.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so we've got maybe about 5 more minutes left. One of the things I wanted to close with, I know the Android beta just went live, when was that, yesterday?
Yep.
So is there anything you want to tell everybody about? Is there anything that we need to be looking forward to, maybe an iOS release? I mean, plug whatever you guys want to plug, talk about whatever you guys want to talk about.
Well, so for Android, we're doing a slow launch of Android. I put up a blog about this, but it is something that we've been paying very close attention to. And we, as a company, are just really excited to have all 3 platforms out and running for the beta testers. So now, people who have the privilege of getting onto both web and Android will be able to go back and forth between both platforms with their characters and their accounts. Yeah. Do you have anything you want to add, Chris?
Well, obviously we can't talk about specifics other than, obviously the iOS is our lead platform. That's what we pushed first. It's quite a bit further along than the other 2 as far as what's in the beta and stuff. And, we're excited to see this actually hitting the streets soon and being able to really broaden the audience for the content. And so, for us, it's really just anticipation of where things are going. And
Sure.
We have plenty of work on our plate. We're not going to run out of things to do, but we are looking for some good feedback from folks. And we've incorporated a lot of the feedback into the product. And so I think that's a message I'd like to leave for your listeners is, get into the beta, get the product when it comes out, and tell us what you think. I mean, we're in this together. We are just caretakers of D&D. We're not trying to do anything more than carry on the legacy and make the game as fun as it can be. And so whatever we can do to make that happen is our goal. So hopefully people will respond to that. Constructive criticism is awesome. And I think people are going to be blown away when they see the first products rolling out the door very quickly.
Yeah, we have an excellent support and feedback portal that we use through user voice that allows people to plug in their own ideas. It allows them to vote up other people's ideas, and it has a really cool way of when you start typing in an idea, it'll pop up ideas that other people have posted that might be similar to what you're saying. So then you can vote up what other people have put in and comment on it and all of that. It's been an incredibly helpful tool for us to see what the most popular things, what the most important things are to our community. And some things have already boiled up to the top that have made it into the app. That are things that we probably wouldn't have done quite the same way if it had not been for the community rising up around it.
Right.
So the important thing is that, yes, the community absolutely has an effect on how features are developed within DungeonScape, and it's incredibly important to us that people get involved with the forums and let us know what they think.
Okay, and what's the easiest way for them to do that? How can they find that portal online? Is that going to be on dnddungeonscape.com?
So currently the portal is available to people who are in the beta test.
Okay.
Once the Apple version is live to the planet in its official form,
right,
the feedback portal will open up for anybody to see.
Got it.
So currently it is a closed forum only to people who have access.
Totally makes sense. Excellent, guys. Well, I appreciate your time. Thanks for sitting with us, Tim and James, and just giving us all these great answers. I appreciate you doing that. I know you're very busy, and it means a lot to us, and I know it'll mean a lot to our listeners.
Yeah, we're out there for the community. That's why we're doing it. So we're happy to spread the word.
Awesome, guys. Well, we'll be in touch as more things come out. We can definitely do more features, more interviews, and things of that nature. So,
lots of coolness forthcoming, guys.
Well, hey, have a great rest of the night, guys.
Have fun playing Eclipse.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.